What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to my public YouTube channel. Now, what exactly am I going to be speaking about in today's video? I'm going to be speaking about why you keep cycling in the same patterns over and over and over and over again, and why you're having such a hard time freeing yourself and getting out of them. I'm going to really be going into depth with what is taking place here. And once again, with this awareness and with this understanding, you can start to free yourself from your own mental imprisonments. So if you're someone that finds yourself getting into these cycles and these patterns that you just remember and you know so well because it happens to you over and over and over again, it's like, okay, I know where this is going. Oh, here it is again, the same type of energy. I've been here before. This is going to be a very important video for you, so definitely consider staying tuned, and I will see you on the other side. All right, let me first start with introducing myself just in case you don't know who I am. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I am fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree. I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana of the tarot deck, and I'm also studied when it comes to planetary energies in direct connection with astrology, and I'm also aware of trauma. Okay? Just to throw that in, which is a very important part. So we're talking about why you keep cycling, why the same patterns keep happening over and over and over again in your life, and you just feel like you can't break the cycle. You feel like you just keep seeing the same repeating energy over and over again, which is always giving you negative emotions. It's always making you feel like shit. It's making you feel lonely. It's making you feel depressed. It's making you angry. And it just keeps happening. So the big question is, why is this happening? First thing that I want to say is, if you want to take advantage of going to the deepest roots in your own personal experience to get down to why this is taking place, then I would definitely consider booking a mentorship with me. This can be found at the second link below. So if you want to do this real integration healing work, and understanding what's behind these patterns on a personal level for you, definitely consider booking the mentorship. Once again, that's going to be in the second link below. Okay, so going back into it. So what's happening here, and first, let me actually start here. This is very, very, very common for most people on our planet. Literally, the majority of human beings on our planet are stuck in certain types of cycles. Some people share similar types of cycles. Like they're getting themselves into the same types of repeating patterns over and over and over again, and they feel like they can't stop it. So they just kind of go with it and they accept it at some point. Now, what's happening here is there's a deeper underlying root as to why this person is stuck in a cycle or stuck in this pattern. And what is really happening, or the reason why the person is stuck, is because they don't have the tools and they don't have the mindsets nor the capacity to understand how to get to that root and how to bring that root or how to nurture that root so that it doesn't cause harm in their life. So with that being said, what is this root and what is upstream from that root that's causing the person to cycle, causing the person to fall into patterns? Well, let me first start with giving you an example of what this actually looks like from a practical lens. And I'll share from my own experience, something I've been through. So in my life, it was around the age of like 9-ish when my parents were going through a really rough time together. And specifically, my mom wanted to leave my dad. But she didn't feel safe to do that. She didn't have the confidence and the knowing to know that she could do that and be okay. So she was scared, and out of fear, she resorted to alcohol. And as a young kid, 9 years old, I went from looking at my mom as one of the main caregivers to me because I had a stronger connection with her than I did my father. And I went from seeing her be that caregiver to me to now checking out using substances, checking out using alcohol, where that caregiver I once had is no longer conscious anymore, is now drunk, separated in her room. And for me, this was very traumatizing, but I also observed her in that state of fear using alcohol. And this was something that imprinted itself on my consciousness so that when I generate similar emotions of that fear of not being safe or not being able to do what I know I need to do, I generated that same pattern of, okay, when that fear is there, turn to a substance. Use alcohol to try to process it, which is never a healthy form of integration. And this is why so many people become alcoholics. And there's so many, drug problems on our planet today. So at the age of 9, I wasn't drinking alcohol. But remember, this ingrained into my consciousness, and it was rooted in the emotion of fear. Truly, the fear of the unknown. Because that's what my mom was afraid of. Fear of leaving my dad, because she didn't know how she was going to make it. So it was the unknown. And that went into me. And then as I went from the age of 9 all the way to the age of 15, that's when I had my first drink of alcohol. And when I was in a state when I was afraid of the unknown, what I resorted to is the same thing that I saw my mom do when I was 9 years old. So I resorted to alcohol. And I also resorted to other types of substances because in a sense, they're all self-similar. It's still a drug. It's still a chemical that's altering the mind. So this became my form of coping. Now, as I became the age of 20, from the age of 15 when I had my first drink of alcohol to the age of 20, I now have had an issue with drinking alcohol to the point where I've received a DUI in my life. I've actually gotten in trouble by the law multiple times with alcohol. And it's become an actual problem. So obviously going through what I went through, having troubles with the law, I had to realize like this is something that I clearly can't keep doing in the way that I've been doing it. I can't keep overriding this repressed emotion using alcohol in this way. So I have to use some mental willpower to prevent myself or to stop using alcohol in this very destructive way. So that's exactly what I did. I just found a better way to mentally control the situation, which resulted in me exercising a little bit more, resulted in me setting days where I could drink and days where I wouldn't drink. So on these days, I'm going to allow myself to be addicted. And then on these other days, I'm going to force myself or control myself to not be addicted. And I got pretty good at doing this. I got pretty good at controlling the energy, controlling my mental energy here in this scenario. But what always ended up happening is I always cycled into that pattern of eventually drinking alcohol on a day that I said I wasn't going to do it. And on the days that I did it, I would drink and I would not feel good afterwards. And when I say not feel good, I don't mean just like a hangover, that type of not feel good. I would mentally feel like, why am I doing this? I actually do not like this. Why am I doing this? Whereas like the moments before I'm about to have the drink, I feel amazing. And I'm like, yes, this drink is going to be so good. This is going to be amazing. And then I have the drink and then I feel like shit. And this pattern went on all the way up until the age of basically 25 for me. So from the age of like 20 to 25, like trying to control my substance abuse. And I felt stuck. I felt like I was in this pattern that I was unable to break. I didn't know how and I didn't know why. And it was requiring so much energy out of me to try to control it every single time, even though it always resulted me in drinking alcohol on the days I said I wouldn't. Or even on a day I said I wouldn't. Just one day was enough to just cycle into a whole negative spiral of like, why? This is not fun. What's happening here? So from where I am now, I clearly can see what was behind this and what's taking place. And as I say this right now, I am happy to say that I am over 2 years completely sober. And I'm saying this not to say like I will never have a drink again in my life, because I'm not that type of person. I'm not afraid of alcohol, and I'm not afraid of actually any substance. I consider myself a balanced spiritual being who allows the substance to be a form of alchemy, but is aware of my relationship with the substance. So in other words, what this means is am I where I'm at now, am I going to go seek drinking alcohol? No. If alcohol is brought to me in a certain balanced situation and it's offered to me as a drink, of course, I will have a drink and I will enjoy it and let it be an alchemical experience. Okay? So the reason why I've gotten to this position is because I'm doing and I've done a lot of the deeper emotional healing work that was actually behind my alcohol pattern, my substance abuse pattern. So what this means is that if you're finding yourself in a pattern, whether it's similar to my example or a completely different type of example, it could be anything. Could be addiction to porn, could be addiction to sex, could be addiction to video games, could be addiction to food, could be this pattern of getting into relationships that are not healthy for you, and you just keep cycling in it. It's like you keep seeing the same type of partner over and over again. They're just a little bit different, but they carry the same energy. So if this is happening to you, which I know it is, just because of the nature of the human being and our society today, I know that you have these patterns in some way, then what we need to do to really undo this, or to start the process of healing the root, is we need to recognize first that there is a root behind it. And this root is emotional in nature, and it's connected to something that happened to you in your past that gave you an intensely charged negative energy, which you stored as an emotion in your unconscious simply because you didn't have tools or the capacity at that time to process it and know what was going on. So if you can, in your own mind, go back to maybe a time in your life when something very traumatic happens, and maybe ask yourself, wow, did things change from that time? And when that happened, did I actually process it? Or did I just find ways to cope from that day forward? And maybe that coping went from one thing that could have been healthy originally, like going to the gym, and maybe as time progressed, it turned into something unhealthy, like substance abuse. And that's just the nature of repressed emotions. They always grow and then turn into more unhealthy things as they need to be expressed, unless you're doing the processing. So if you actually can go in your mind's eye and revisit a situation or a circumstance where you can remember something very traumatic that took place, that can be very powerful. And that's very valuable if you can do that. Now, I know most of you probably are unable to do that because the trauma can be so intense and the emotional charge behind it can be so intense that oftentimes what we do is we actually block it out in our memories. So what this means is that most of us actually don't even remember on a mental level where that trauma started. And we're not going to actually be able to mentally get there first. So this is the healing process that we have to really focus on to get to the root or to heal the roots, which starts with the emotional body. So this literally starts with feeling that repressed emotion that's inside of you. And if you don't know what that repressed emotion is, that's okay, because we don't need to necessarily identify it and know it to process it. What we do need to do, though, is we need to set time away to actually feel the emotions and to be present in the moment with practices like sitting in silence, a practice that I speak very highly on throughout my YouTube channel, where you're giving yourself that time and, most importantly, that space to feel what emotion is there in the present moment without projecting in the future with your mind and overriding what is present, emotionally speaking, in your body. So by being present through practices like sitting in silence and starting to feel your emotions while observing your mind, this is starting the real healing, and this is starting the real integration, whether you're aware of the emotion or not. Now, the more you're doing this integration, the more your consciousness is going to start aligning with what is happening. So the more you're actually going to become aware of, whoa, this is the emotion I'm feeling right now. This is depression. This is sadness. This is loneliness. And then you can even better sit with that emotion, because now you know what it is and you're starting to become familiar with it and you're allowing it to process even more. And the more you go into that and the more you process it, the more your mind is now gaining access to the actual root of when it happened. So you're actually unlocking things in your consciousness to make you aware of when the time frame started when you repressed that emotion in the first place. This is extremely valuable information, extremely powerful information that I am right now sharing with you. So do not take this for granted. Now, let's go back into the nature of these pattern cycles that people find themselves in. So, this is what's taking place when you're in the cycle, okay? What's happening is you're recreating situations and circumstances that are going to generate that same exact emotion that you are repressing in your unconscious. So, using me as an example, again, remember what I said. When I developed that addiction pattern from my mom, when I saw her turn to substance abuse, it was rooted in fear of the unknown. So that was one of the deepest emotions behind that specific pattern. So the way that this translated into my future is whenever there was a time when I was afraid of the unknown, I would resort to using some sort of substance, some sort of alcohol or some sort of kratom or something, marijuana. I would resort to something to escape that fear. Now, naturally, because of that, what I manifested was situations while under the use of that substance that generated more fear. So, for example, the way this looks is I use alcohol to override my fear of the unknown, and then I end up getting a DUI, which creates more fear of the unknown. Because now I'm in trouble with the law. And now I have to go to court, and I have to go to classes, and I have to do all these things. When I'm smoking the marijuana, due to a fear of the unknown that I'm harboring inside of myself, when I'm getting really high, I start getting very paranoid. And now I'm afraid while I'm high, just in general, just of life itself. When I start drinking the kratom to override this fear of the unknown in my body, and then I take those first sips of the kratom, immediately I start feeling really good. I start feeling euphoric. And then as it wears down, it makes me so afraid that I want to use another kratom, or I want to drink another kratom to get back to that state, because it takes me even deeper into the sense of that unknown space. when I'm coming down off of it. So as you can see, this pattern and this cycle that you may find yourself stuck within or trapped within is actually generating that same emotion that you're repressing on a deep-rooted level in your unconscious. So for me, it was fear in this scenario. For you, it might be something else. It may be a different emotion. It could be a different pattern. Could be a completely different situation scenario, but similar in its nature. So this is something that you can really reflect on within yourself and ask yourself, is this what I'm doing? Because once again, this is the nature of how these patterns manifest. And this can get very nuanced. So I gave a very kind of obvious one with substance abuse, but this can also manifest in people that get into building businesses, get into forming relationships. This can be a little bit harder to see sometimes. Substance abuse is usually easier to see because there's a societal awareness that, being addicted is not a good thing. But when it comes to like forming relationships with people or building a business, if you're building a business out of a space of overriding what you have repressed emotionally in your unconscious, what you're actually building is not in alignment with your true self. And what you're building is actually a coping mechanism. So what that means is that this business that you're building is inherently going to generate the same emotion that you are repressing into your unconscious. So in my case, if the emotion is fear, then I'm going to create a business that as it starts to progress or as it starts to grow or just as I'm building it, what it's going to end up doing in the long run is generate more fear in my body. So that could manifest as my business crashing one day, completely breaking down and crashing. It could manifest as me always feeling like I need to keep my business alive to the point where I'm just always afraid. Like I'm afraid something's going to happen to it. I'm afraid I'm not going to get enough clients. I'm afraid I'm not going to do what I need to do with it. And it's just a consistent fear that it would be generating. Whereas when you're integrated and you recognize there's a deeper emotional root that is behind your cycle or your pattern, you can start processing it, healing it, and then create from a space of authenticity. Create from a space that is really in alignment with who you actually are. So when you're stuck in the pattern or you're stuck in the cycle, it's always going to end in destruction. So with the same example of the business, I'm going to create a business that's based on a repressed emotion of fear. Eventually the business is going to crash. It's going to fall. I'm going to be afraid that it didn't work. I'm going to be afraid that I don't know what to do now. And then if I still don't heal that underlying root of fear, I'm going to create another business and the same exact thing is going to happen. And then it's going to be a pattern. It's going to be a cycle. How many people do you know that start things and never finish what they're starting? Like they start doing this and then it comes crashing down. They start doing this and then it comes crashing down. They're always looking for that next thing that's going to be the thing for them. And they just keep creating it and then it just keeps failing. They just either give up on it completely or they just try to do it and it's just not working and they can't do it anymore. It just never works out. This is a cycle that the person is in. It's a pattern that they're stuck in based on an emotional root that they're not processing. And imagine this concept with relationships that you get into with another partner. Imagine getting into a relationship where the person always cheats on you. It's like you're getting into a relationship and they always cheat on you. And part of your relationship or part of what you need in a relationship is a partner who's honest with you and communicates with you openly. And they tell you they're not going to be a cheater. They tell you they're not going to do anything behind your back, but they always cheat on you. And you find this happening over and over and over and over again. This is because first of all, this is not because all men are cheaters or all women are cheaters. This is not because the world is evil. This is not because you're amazing and you're good and you're loyal and other people you just happen to connect with are just not and they're bad. This is because you have a deep rooted emotion that you're not processing and you're not healing that is keeping you in relationships where you're always going to get cheated on to generate that same repressed emotion that you're not processing. So what emotion could that be? Could be anger. Could be loneliness that's underneath the anger. And yet if the person's not healing that or processing that, they're going to create relationships with other partners that are going to generate that in them. Could be through cheating, could be through lying, could be through stealing, could be through anything. Okay? So this is how important it is to actually do this internal work. And I'm here to tell you now, the more knowledge you gain, the more control over your mind, the more control over your mind you gain, the more information you have is not going to be how you solve getting out of these patterns. This is another thing that so many people get stuck in. They think, oh, if I learn more about it, if I do the research more, if I get more knowledge, if I get more information on what's happening, then I can start healing. And yes, there is a bit of a balance there, because obviously this is giving you information. This is giving you awareness, but I'm also giving you real practice to do and the type of awareness that actually puts you into the practice of it, which is different than just soul knowledge or soul information or soul data. And there's a lot of people that get stuck in, oh, once I get enough knowledge, once I get enough data, then I can start breaking the pattern because I can control my mind more. I'm going to have more power to govern myself, to control myself. And you're never going to heal this by controlling your mind. It has nothing to do with controlling your mind. It has nothing to do with overriding things. What I was doing with setting up a routine for myself, where on these days I'm going to drink alcohol, these days I'm not, that is controlling my mind. And to some people, that looks like you're doing a good job. Congratulations, you're beating your addiction. But really, all I'm doing is overriding. And that's draining energy from me to override. It takes energy from you to try to control your mind. And then some people say you need to control your emotions. That's the same thing. You don't control your emotions. That is a mental concept of you being in control of your entire existence and being in control of your reality. But it's the same thing, like you're not controlling your heart pumping. You're not controlling how the blood's moving through your veins. You're not controlling your hormones. You're not controlling your immune system. You may do things that help support that process, but you're not controlling it. There is a higher side of you that is governing this process. There is a more intelligent part of you that is orchestrating all of these things happening. And it's the emotional side of your being that is in alignment with that higher side of you, that more powerful, aware side of you. So the way that we're going to really break the pattern and free ourselves is not by thinking we need more knowledge to control it, but by saying, I need to surrender and be conscious that there is something emotionally inside of me that I'm afraid of. There is something emotionally inside of me that I don't really want to feel. And that's okay. That's a natural response. But are you going to allow yourself to feel it even if you don't want to? Are you going to give yourself that time, that space, that respect, and that love to be in a situation where you're separate from everything or you're away from everything, where you can literally just start feeling the present moment emotions? Are you going to create a safe space for yourself to do that type of work? And the answer for most people is no, they're not willing to do that. And that's why people stay in these cycles. That's why they stay locked in these patterns and their lives become shit. So if you want to live a life that's actually worth living and actually have joy and experience fun and know more of your true self and feel like you're here doing what you're supposed to be doing, it is this type of emotional healing, integration through feeling, that is the starting point. And it does go deeper, and we can use our minds as we start balancing out the emotional energy body to then start getting to the roots on a mental level so you can start grasping what's actually happening. Okay, but it's not going to happen the other way around. It's not going to happen. The more mental I can be, the more I'm going to be able to heal my emotions. It's going to work backwards, actually. Starting with the emotions, no mind, and then balancing the emotional body, and then integrating the mind in alignment with the emotional body, with the soul. Okay? So I said what I need to say in this video. This was obviously very intense. It's very powerful. I highly recommend you listen to it multiple times if you need to. Okay? Because once again, these are some very deep topics that a lot of people are not speaking about, especially in the way that I'm giving it to you with very raw, honest examples of my own life experience. So let it marinate, let it soak in, try to feel into what I'm saying and give yourself that time to do it. If you enjoyed this video, if you thought this was a unique subject, hit that thumbs up button and also drop down in the comment section and let me know how you received this video. Let me know how this actually spoke to you. Let me know if you resonate with it. I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Now also, if you want to get notified whenever I'm posting, make sure you're hitting the notification bell. You don't want to miss out when I post this content, trust me. Also, make sure you're subscribing to my YouTube channel because obviously this is a very unique YouTube channel where I promise you there's nobody else speaking about what I'm speaking about in the way that I'm speaking about it. So go ahead and subscribe. What that also does is that further links you into the content itself because there's an energetic component there. So if you want to further link in and get more value, subscribe to the channel. If not, forget about it. Now, I want to say this. You have my full permission to copy and paste the link of this video or any of my other videos that you find valuable and send it out to anyone, family, friends, or social media platforms that you feel like need to hear this content. I encourage you to spread it. Okay, if you know anybody that will get value from what it is that I'm teaching, what it is that I'm talking about, send it to them. If you listen to this video and someone flashed in your mind while I'm making this video, send it to them. It could be very beneficial for them. And it also helps me build up my empire. And one of my intentions is to spread my content like a wildfire. Now, I'm going to take your awareness to literally the most important link that is in the YouTube description itself. This is the first link at the very top. You cannot miss it. Go right down there, first link. This is where you can join the Patreon. On the Patreon, I have an entire vault of exclusive occult content, and none of it is on my public YouTube channel. At this point, the Patreon is like a secondary YouTube channel, except the content that's on there is more advanced and more personal than what you're getting right here. Tier number 2 of the Patreon gives you access to a magic training course, which is really valuable, especially if you're a beginner occultist. Tier number 3 is the most popular tier of the Patreon itself, and that speaks for itself. This is called the Universe.B Vampire Service. This is a ritual service that I perform on the 29th of every single month that has one. Once again, this is the most popular tier on the Patreon itself. In this service, what I do is I transfer my energetic body, my vampiric energy body, and I place it or I send it to you as the participant. And as long as you're receptive to that, and as long as you openly receive it and you're willing to do the inner growth or go through the inner transformation, then that energy field transfers to you, and then you can start using it to your benefits. So basically what this vampire energy field does is it gets you much more in tune with those feminine aspects of yourself. The receptive aspect, the letting go aspect, and most importantly, the feeling aspect. So this is why in the beginning stages of the Universe.B Vampire Service, there's a transition phase where people oftentimes start to experience some of those repressed emotions that come up to the surface, which can make them tired, can make them fatigued, can make them angry, can make them irritable, whatever. So that's just to show the nature of this level of service that I offer and how people go through that transition phase. Now, ultimately, what this does is this gives the person an ability to pull in energy from dark energy and chaos around them to then transmute into their own power and evolutionary potential. Because as you're integrating and as you're healing your own repressed negative energies, you're now able to use that same negative or dark energy that exists around you and pull that in and further integrate it into more of your true self. So it does become your power, and the entire time it was your power. The only reason why it wasn't your power is because you were repressing that negative energy, and that was causing you to see it in the external world around you as evil or wrong, when in reality the whole time it was never that. It was actually meant to be your power. And once again, this is what the Universe.B Vampire Service helps to initiate within your energy body, within your energy field. So if this is something you're interested in, tier number 3 is how you take advantage of this service. We'll leave it there. Now, as we move into tier number 4, this is the top tier of the Patreon. This gives you access to everything from the previous tiers, except you get some bonus content, which is a psychic prediction on a monthly basis. So I pull my tarot card and a personal oracle card, and it's designed to give you the energetic archetypal experience for the new month as you're going into it. And the reading itself is based on your astrological zodiac sign. So once again, if you're a top tier member, you're going to be able to understand what are the archetypal initiatory healing energies that are coming in for this new month. And you can be better prepared for it. So if that's what you're interested in, tier number 4. All of this is in the Patreon. Check it out. At the second link below, this is where you can book a call with me. If you've been studying my content and you're curious about what it is that I'm teaching, and you want to ask me questions that you have personally, I would highly recommend booking a call with me. It can be very, very powerful. It can be very beneficial, okay? Now, if you're someone who's taking your practice to an even deeper degree, and you're really going through a healing process, you're really going through a growth phase in your life or a transitional phase, then I would highly recommend the mentorship option. I have a 6-week mentorship and I have a 3-month mentorship. These are going to be amazing to have me as an actual guide, an emotional and a spiritual guide, to help you process and navigate what it is that you're going through, what it is that you're experiencing, so that you can actually integrate the journey as you're going through it, rather than further repressing and overriding and then digging yourself a hole that you end up falling into and getting stuck in. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely consider it. That's tier number 2. This is my new favorite thing to do. It's my new favorite service, is doing these calls, specifically the mentorships. Within that same second link below, you have an option to book a tarot card reading with me. It's a very unique reading I promise you've never received before, okay? I've done so many readings. I get tons of valuable feedback. If it's something you want to take advantage of, in that same second link, you can book that. Now, in the third link in the YouTube description, this is the last link I'm going to take your awareness to. This is where you can become a YouTube member. And as you're a YouTube member, you're getting access to a multitude of different benefits. Most importantly, though, you're getting access to what is called the Psychic Warfare Emoji Program. And what this is this is a sequence of emojis that I've designed myself that are based on real occult principles, and you can use them in a specific configuration. You link in the name of a target, hit enter, and it actually causes psychic effects to the target of your choice. This is an amazing way to actually express healthy aggression and send this psychic energy to the target of your choice, which also will help you initiate a transformative process in your own life in return, because everything is truly connected. So if this is something you want to take advantage of, definitely consider it. There's well over 2,000 posts where people are using it. There's people using it right now in this moment. Click that third link below, join at the top, and then you'll have access. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this is where I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate all of you very, very, very much, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.